Okay. All right. So unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the last month or so, probably the biggest movie out right now, is Us. And spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I'm gonna talk a lot about this movie because this movie is crazy, in my opinion. In my opinion, and if you've seen any of the interviews with the director and producer Jordan Peele, the same guy that brought us Get Out, he said that although in his mind this movie has a very direct message, he made the movie in such a way that there can be so many different perspectives and things you can take from it depending on who you are and your own biases. So what I'm about to say is my own biases, and again, spoiler alert, because probably the first thing I noticed is right off the bat, message by the way, right off the bat, is the commentary on the black family. You know, so in the very beginning, you see this black family in the car. They're going on vacation together. It's a very, I guess you could say quaint version of the black family. The black man, the black wife, the black daughter, the black son. All happy, hunky dory. And quickly, you could see that this idea deteriorates. You know, when after doppelgangers show up. From the very beginning, where you could see Gabe. The black father. He's trying to protect his family. He goes outside the first time. He's like, "Hey, if you're trying to scare us, it's not working. I'm gonna call the cops on you. Get off our property." So on and so forth. And then he goes back in the house. Family's even more scared. They're even more freaked out. And they're not leaving. The families that those doppelgangers outside are not leaving. He goes back out this time with a bat. He's going, if you want to get crazy, we can get crazy, putting some bass in his voice, doing his best to scare off his family. That doesn't work either. They start coming towards him. He runs back inside. He's trying to lock the door. He's giving them directions. Do this, do that, call the cops, help me out, blah, blah, blah. And quickly, Gabe's bat is stolen from him by the intruders. And they literally knee him. They bonk him in the knee hard as hell. And this man's crippled basically for the rest of the movie. And in a lot of ways, this crippling of Gabe is the crippling of the black man in the black family, where things for a long time were, the nuclear family, black man, black husband, black wife, their kids, the black man protecting their family the best he can. And then just like that, the society around us crippled the black man, you know, put literally brought us to our knees, much like Gabe, making us unable to protect the family. Because you see, from the rest of the movie, Gabe tries his best. He does his best to protect his family, but he just can't. He's crippled. He's this burden to everybody, where they have to carry him around. Where he's such a burden to them. He's now so valueless that oftentimes in this movie they're leaving him alone to fend for himself. We There's when the intruders first come into the home and he's crippled on the ground, and he's crying, and he's begging for help, and the family just leaves him there crawling on the ground for himself. Or later on when they go when they're fighting off the white doppelgangers, and instead of staying with their dad, who's the most crippled and injured, they run to the home to protect the mother and help the mother out. In a lot of ways, this juxtaposes the black man's position and role in society, in American society for the last, I want to say, 100 years or so, where it started off with the black man being the head of the family, the stereotypical head of the family, of a nuclear family, and then just like that, we're crippled either with drugs or with crimes or just with the racism, police brutality, all these things in the world that are meant to cripple us, that are meant to keep us down. And much like Gabe, we have to keep pushing, we have to keep going, not only for ourselves, but for our family, protect our family. And another thing you can say about the black family in this movie is the mother, represented by Adelaide, who even when those doppelgangers outside first come, you can see the kids are huddled around her, not around their dad who's trying to protect them, not trying to give support to their dad who's there trying to fight off these intruders, but around their mother. And quickly after Gabe becomes crippled, you can see this mother who was already in a lot of ways being protected and nurtured by their kids in a reverse role of parenting, in its own way. These kids, quickly start taking instructions from their mother, even against the instructions of their own father. Gabe, who tries his best, but just simply is unable to lead the family anymore. And this is most apparent, this idea of the black woman now being the head of the family. This is most apparent and in the white home when after they're killing off the white doppelgangers and they're in the living room together, and Adelaide just yells, you're not in charge anymore. When Gabe tries to tell him to stay there, safer there. Another way you can see this commentary on the black family is with the two kids who each represent some of the roles black kids tend to play in this society, where whether it's with the daughter who is very bad with peer pressure. She's everything she does is to please others. Whether it's watching her brother, or you know putting her phone away to make her mom happy, or doing tracks to make her dad happy, or playing in the sand to keep her brother happy. In so many ways, this is a commentary on the black child who and has so many things pulling on them and tugging on them in so many different ways, telling them what to do. Or with the son, who in his own right is very introverted. He's not well adjusted to greater society. He stays to himself. He's shy. He's not very sociable, to say the least. And that's also commentary on the black child who oftentimes is thrust into the world by these families, into situations that they don't know how to navigate. A lot of these kids don't know how to navigate things like racism or hatred. Something that they, in a lot of ways, black kids have to on their own just face, much like Gabe has to face all these, you know, has to face all these things in society on his own at the end, whether it's with his own doppelganger, or fighting, killing these killing off the some other the white doppelgangers himself, much like black kids have to do, in terms of where you could see the black kids are the ones that had to go into the home and kill the white doppelgangers in order to save their mother. That's such a great commentary, in itself, where the black mother is taken, the black father is crippled and fighting off the white man, and here are these kids running into the home to save the black mother from her doom, that she herself wrought you know by trying to ask the white family for help. And these kids is running there, risking their own lives to save their black mother, not really caring what happened to the father until the very end. And that's wild, for in so many ways, for Jordan Peele to be able to chronicle the history of the black family in this country, from a nuclear family to all the divisions in the black family, whether it's the black man being put down, or the black woman being put in a position of power that she wasn't in before, or these black children sometimes having to raise themselves in the way that these black kids had to fight off these doppelgangers all by themselves. So many ways, this commentary on the black family is so stark, that it's crazy. And I would just have to watch it. Or another way this movie really goes into some of these structures of the society is the juxtaposition of white versus black. In this movie, between the the Tyler family and the Wilsons, the black family and the white family, where you could see Gabe often trying to keep up with Josh, one up with Josh. Gabe over and over again is masturbating himself in a way. First by always asking, "Hey, have you seen?" Talking about Josh's big mansion on the other side of the lake. Compared to his own, which is just their parents' old home before their parents died. Or Gabe just comparing his Josh's boat to his own boat, which is this little dinghy, versus Josh's, which is a big thing, with the upper deck and the lower deck. Or before the doppelgangers attack, where you can see Gabe asking, "Hey, have you seen Josh's new Land Rover?" Or when he mentions the generator. In these ways, you can see that although the black family, Adelaide and Gabe's family, although they're in their own way, they're comfortable, they're wealthy in their own right, they're still comparing themselves to the white family. They're still trying to one up them. They're still trying to keep up with them. In a lot of ways, this represents our own the black family in modern society, where although we're getting wealthier, although we're climbing to the middle class, although we're climbing to the upper class, we're still trying to keep up with this image, this idea of what the American dream is, by trying to copy white people and their mannerisms and their styles and their materialism and all these things that isn't us, in much the same way that Gabe tried to copy Josh and his family. And this in the biggest thing I would say that really highlights this idea of just whiteness being what black people are striving for, is where after doppelgangers attack, you know, and in a lot of ways these wealthy blacks, the Adelaide and Gabe's family is fighting off the doppelgangers who are coming from the underground. They're fighting them off, and where do they run to? First, they try calling the cops. The cops don't come. Then they run to the White House, the White family's house. They're trying to ask the White family for help. They're banging on the door. They're banging on the door. And in the midst of this destruction, in the midst of this literal war for survival, in this struggle, there's only one house that's shining in the whole neighborhood. And it's the White family's house. Still bright, still large. Even though the family inside is dead, even though they're long dead, the black family is still running to them for help, to ask them for help. And in the midst of it, they literally have their own ones with the power. It's just imagine that, in the midst of this destruction, and they're the only ones with power, and they're dead. And in so many ways, this idea of this power still being held, even in the midst of death, is just so pertinent to us as black people today. And this idea of, even though our old masters are long dead, even though our old masters are long buried, even though these despicable men and women of the past are long forgotten, they still have all the power in our minds, in our culture. And always we're still running to these ideas, to these bastions of power, to really support ourselves. And this is my opinion. This is a wild thing that he did, and this literal representation of power in the midst of darkness. Where even when trying to survive, the first thought in these people's head, in order to get help, was to run to the white family. And I don't know, in my opinion, that was just wild. Or another thing that I thought was very, very telling, and I mentioned it earlier, you know, where the black family was fighting their own doppelgangers in order to survive. These people that came, you know, to pillage, to kill, to torture. Even when walking to the home, the doppelgangers are going, make yourselves comfortable in our home. Or when Gabe is there sitting, and looking at them, and they're looking at each other, and they're staring at each other. Gabe is like, "Who are you people? What do you want?" In all red, Adelaide's doppelganger goal is just say, "We're Americans," and that's wild. This idea of you know this struggle between black wealth and black poverty in a big way. These people literally coming from the underground. They're coming up from the underground to take what they think is theirs. To take what's this, to right this injustice that they've been suffering for generations. And it's wild because in this sense, you could see these people are they're doing these great evils, but they're justified. They're just trying to be equals in this world. They're trying to fight for what they feel is theirs. And this is much like ourselves, where we're stopping ourselves and breaking each other's necks just for a little bit more money. You know what I'm saying? These ideas of just class warfare and family struggle and racial conflict, all bundled up into this one giant movie, that only runs about 2 hours long. That's so many layers and so many aspects that Mr. Jordan Peele wrapped into this one movie that I could never really delve into, even if I had hours to talk. But just these ideas that I automatically just caught off right off the bat after watching this movie. The commentary on the structure of the black family, commentary of race. the Towers versus the Wilsons, or the commentary of of class warfare amongst black people. Just all these different themes and ideas juxtaposing each other, much like in America. And this idea of intersectionality that is so big today, of like these different layers of oppression and conflict that affect us today. It can all be seen as one movie. So yes, us might not be as concise and as single-minded and focused as Get Out was. But this movie, in so many ways, is better in just the different types of interpretations and layers that it gets into. And why you could say Get Out was a very simple, basic commentary on race in this country. Us was such a much more tangled web that is much more relatable to our lives today. And really, I would definitely recommend watching Us. Just like I said, I cannot go into this movie enough, and you have to watch it to see what I'm talking about.